Could following God to literally lead to unimaginable tragedy? The story of Jephthah proves good intentions don't always equal righteous outcomes. Hey everyone! Today we're diving into a truly gut-wrenching story from the Bible, the story of Jephthah. It's a tale of ambition, a desperate vow, and a sacrifice that will leave you reeling. We're going to unpack the profound lesson hidden within this ancient narrative, a lesson about the power of words, the dangers of rash promises, and the devastating consequences of choices made in fear. Get ready to question everything you thought you knew. Let's get started. The danger of making rash promises. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a story from the Bible, specifically the book of Judges, about a man named Jephthah. Now his story is filled with twists and turns, but it ultimately highlights a profound lesson: the danger of making rash promises, especially those involving God. Jephthah was an outcast, rejected by his family. But when his people, the Israelites, were threatened by the Ammonites, they desperately needed a leader, and they turned to him. Seeing this as an opportunity for acceptance and power, Jephthah made a vow to God. He promised that if God gave him victory over the Ammonites, he would sacrifice to God whatever came out of his house to meet him when he returned home. Big mistake. Huge mistake. Now, we all know how the story goes. Jephthah leads the Israelites to a stunning victory. But upon returning home, who's the first to greet him with joyful celebration? His only daughter. Talk about a gut punch. Jephthah's heartbroken but feels bound by his vow. Well, interpretations differ on exactly what Jephthah did with his daughter, whether it was a literal sacrifice or a life dedicated to temple service, effectively ending her line. The consequence is devastating. The truth is, Jephthah's situation is a stark warning to us all. We often make promises impulsively, caught up in a moment of strong emotion, or driven by a desire to achieve a goal. So maybe you've promised your boss you'll deliver a project by a deadline you know is unrealistic. Perhaps you've sworn to a friend that you'll always be there for them, regardless of your own needs. Or maybe you've even made a similar promise to God, vowing to devote more time to prayer or service if something specific happens. While good intentions are important, rash promises can lead to regret, broken relationships, and even deep moral conflicts, as we see with Jephthah. The key takeaway is to think carefully before you speak, and to truly consider the potential consequences of your words. Because once those words are out there, they can be incredibly difficult to retract. We need to be mindful of the power our words hold, and strive to be deliberate and thoughtful in the promises we make. The rash vow and its devastating cost. So, Jephthah leads the Israelite army, and as he prepares for battle against the Ammonites, he makes a vow to God. Now, vows to God weren't uncommon in those days. People often promised something in exchange for divine favor. But Jephthah's vow, well, it's where things take a truly tragic turn. It declares, "If you will indeed give the Ammonites into my hand, then whatever comes out from the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the Ammonites shall be the Lord. And I will offer it up for a burnt offering." Think about that for a moment. Whatever comes out of the doors of my house. He didn't specify an animal or a possession. He left it completely open-ended. It was a ridiculously vague and, frankly, a very risky promise to make. We can speculate why he made such an unthoughtful vow. He was overconfident, riding high on a wave of newfound leadership. Perhaps he felt pressured to prove his devotion, desperate for God's blessing to legitimize his rise from outcast to judge. Whatever his reasoning, Jephthah wins the battle. A great victory is achieved, the Ammonites are crushed, and Jephthah returns home in triumph. But then, as he approaches his house, who should come running out to greet him with timbrels and dancing, filled with joy at his safe return? His daughter, his only child, the one person who undoubtedly filled his life with love and purpose. Imagine the color draining from his face. Imagine the joy turning to horror. The Bible tells us he tore his clothes in anguish, crying out, "Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are among those who trouble me. For I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I cannot take back my vow." Now, the interpretation of what happened next is debated among scholars. Some believe Jephthah literally offered his daughter as a burnt offering. Others argue that offering her to the Lord meant dedicating her to perpetual virginity and service in the tabernacle. Regardless of the specific interpretation, the outcome is devastating. Jephthah's daughter recognizes the weight of the vow, and with remarkable courage and filial piety, accepts her fate. Only asks for 2 months to wander through the mountains with her friends, bewailing her virginity, lamenting the fact she will never experience marriage and motherhood. And then she returns to her father, and he does to her according to his vow. The Bible doesn't linger on the details. It simply states the facts, leaving us to grapple with the enormity of the loss and the crushing weight of Jephthah's tragic decision. This isn't just a story about a rash vow. It's a story about the catastrophic consequences of making promises without careful consideration, and the devastating price of unwavering commitment to a poorly conceived pledge. Choosing wisdom over will. A practical application. Jephthah's story isn't just a biblical drama. It's a stark warning about the dangers of making rash promises, without considering the consequences and seeking divine guidance. We can extract a powerful lesson here, applicable to our own lives. The importance of prioritizing wisdom over blind will. How often do we, like Jephthah, get caught up in the heat of the moment and make promises we later regret? Perhaps it's an impulsive financial commitment, an agreement to take on more responsibilities than we can handle, or even a promise to a friend or loved one that we didn't fully think through. The key is to cultivate a habit of pausing, reflecting, and seeking wisdom before making significant decisions or pledges. This doesn't necessarily mean paralysis by analysis. Instead, consider it a deliberate act of mindfulness. Ask yourself, what are the potential ramifications of this decision? Are my motives pure and aligned with my values? Have I consulted with trusted advisors, sought counsel through prayer or meditation, or simply taken time to consider different perspectives? For those struggling with impulsive decisions, consider employing practical strategies. Implement a 24-hour rule for significant choices. Sleep on it before committing. Write down the pros and cons, forcing yourself to consider all angles. Develop a habit of praying specifically for wisdom and discernment in making decisions. Acknowledging that God or a higher power, depending on your beliefs, might have a different plan for you than you have for yourself. Ultimately, Jephthah's tragedy highlights the devastating consequences of prioritizing personal ambition and stubborn adherence to vows over compassion, reason, and a clear understanding of divine will. It teaches us that true strength lies not in blindly fulfilling promises, but in possessing the wisdom to discern whether those promises are truly aligned with what is right and just. Let Jephthah's story serve as a constant reminder to choose wisdom over will, even when it's difficult, and to allow thoughtful consideration and prayer to guide our choices. By doing so, we can avoid the pitfalls of rash decisions and build a life marked by integrity, compassion, and enduring peace. Jephthah's story is a stark reminder. Rash vows can have devastating consequences, and true faith requires careful consideration and obedience to God's principles, not emotional bargaining. This isn't just an ancient tale. It's a warning for our lives today. If you found this exploration of Jephthah's tragic story insightful, please give this video a like. Let me know in the comments what you took away from Jephthah's vow. Have you ever made a similar mistake? And finally, to stay connected and dive deeper into more thought-provoking biblical narratives, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Let's learn and grow together. So remember Jephthah. Let his story be a reminder that good intentions don't always pave the way to righteous outcomes. Think before you promise. Until next time, keep searching for wisdom in the unexpected places.